Over recent years, Judy and I have worked closely with Rob Fickling from Moroka 30 on the Beyond the Divide TV series. Rob, with the assistance of his great young cameraman and editor Greg Hogan, have led the way with this great Aussie hunting series. We applaud Rob for his stance on sustainable use of wildlife and hunter ethics. We're very proud to bring these few episodes to you from Wild Country. If you enjoy them as much as we do, go online and buy the whole series.
And the wind calls my name, it stirs deep inside. Thoughts of where my spirit feels alive, and where the mind goes, the hunter will follow to go beyond that vine.
The South Island of New Zealand's been a favourite playground of mine over the years, as it is for hunters all around the world. On this trip, I'm joined by a keen bunch of Aussies, as well as a few experienced locals, and also a good mate of mine and a familiar face from Series 1, Clark McGhie. The west coast of the South Island, Clark, a special place for you.
Yeah, really special, mate. This is the home of my grandfather and my father. It's the home of the great red stag and the big bull tahr and the chamois. You know, they're awesome mountains to hunt, and they're so challenging, and such challenging game species.
Now shortly, veteran pilot James Scott is going to arrive in his Hughes 500. He's going to take us deep into the Adams Wilderness, where for 7 days we're going to hunt free range, self-guided for tahr and chamois.
Now Rob, as with any hunt in this country here, the weather will be a crucial factor. So we're throwing all our eggs in one basket and we're going to go in high.
That's it, spot on. Now camp is at a whopping 1,300 metres straight out of the chopper.
Yep.
And as you can see up there, we've just had the first snows of the season. It's quite late. We're coming off a big drought, and if it's going to turn, it's going to turn hard. And in this trip, the success of it could come down to the flip of a coin.
Yeah.
So what's your call going to be, mate?
I reckon heads, big bulls and sunny days.
Tails, 2 feet of snow, and you better bring a good book. My first unsuccessful experience hunting tahr was nearly 10 long years ago. I had just come out of my first ballot hunt in Fiordland, and with the legs in mountain mode, I was craving more. So I loaded my pack and rifle onto the public bus at Tiarnau and made my way up through Queenstown and onto Twizel, where I met up with Chris, a good buddy of mine. Chris is a skilled backcountry fly fisherman as well as a keen hunter, so with some good advice from the local dock office, we hired a car and set off on a self-guided walk-in hunting and fishing trip into the big glacial valleys north of town. While Chris put the time in on the river, I spent my days climbing the towering sides of the valley searching for tahr. We got the typical dose of horrid weather with wind, rain and snow, and for me hunting solo with no prior experience, it was a steep learning curve. Despite managing a feed of venison, I had no luck in finding the tahr. After searching higher and higher into the bluffs, the closest I got was finding their day-old tracks in the scree, but unfortunately then, it was time to head home. The trip was a great experience, and it left me with a burning desire to return again one day and explore more of those intimidating mountains and take on the tahr. In 2012, Clark and Kurt McGhie took a rare break from guiding other hunters and together with some New Zealand friends, went in on a block they drew in the West Coast Tahr ballot. They had a great trip and took some solid trophies in the, as always, seriously challenging terrain and conditions. Clark knew I was still dead keen to get back after all these years, so he suggested we team up for a trip in 2013. We entered the ballot, drew a block, and the hunt was on. For mountain hunters the world over, there's an attraction to alpine hunting that is very unique. It's an addiction that gets in your blood, and it's as much about the challenge and the test of yourself against the environment as it is about hunting the tenacious game that live at those altitudes. The Southern Alps rivals Fiordland as the steepest and most inhospitable hunting environment in the Southern Hemisphere. And for a hunter to take a bull tahr, fair chase on foot out of that terrain, well, that's a very special achievement and one to be proud of. Tahr are native to the highest mountain range in the world, the Himalayas of Nepal, northern India and Tibet. They make their home among soaring peaks and icy bluffs where they've evolved to thrive in a prehistoric and extreme environment which instills fear and intimidation into the most hardened of adventurers. The Himalayan tahr was first released into the Southern Alps of New Zealand at Aoraki Mount Cook in 1904 as a gift to the government from the Duke of Bedford in England. 6 tahr were selected from his herd at Woburn and released to promote future prospects for trophy hunting. With no natural predators, the tahr thrived, growing their population dramatically, but sadly also damaging the native plants and vegetation. The New Zealand Department of Conservation stepped in with a goal of containing their range and reducing populations in critical sites of high conservation value. The current tahr range covers around 1.7 million hectares of mostly public land throughout Canterbury, West Coast and Otago. Their numbers have now stabilised through careful management, and with Doc working alongside hunters, they're successfully managed for both conservation and to provide a sustainable and highly valuable economic resource through hunting. Opportunities to hunt tahr in New Zealand are vast. For the inexperienced, the services of a reputable wilderness guide are highly recommended for personal safety and a greater chance of success. For the more adventurous, huge areas of public land are open and seasonal balloted areas are available via online application. So if you think your fitness is up to it and you're not afraid of heights, the lure of the majestic tahr and the challenge of the Southern Alps is up for the taking. Leaving from Australia, we flew to Christchurch on the east coast of New Zealand, where we picked up our hire car, geared up with food, then drove over to the west coast via Arthur's Pass and then south to the coastal town of Hokotiki. We spent a late night prepping gear and food, and then early on day 2, headed south to rendezvous with a chopper, which in 2 trips would get our 5-man party and all our gear deep into the wilderness. As the chopper pitched in, the adrenaline was pumping. We had managed a lucky break of clear, fine weather, so with high spirits, our camp was set and we were eager to get out for a good scout around. We come out to the bluffs here. As we spoke about earlier, going in really high, it's given us the luxury of being on top of the animals, but that can work both ways, that it's hard to look down onto them, but the thing is with these tahr, we're mostly going to find them through this bush belt, and that face over there behind me is a classic spot to glass. We're going to pull up here and get eyes on that above the waterfall, but you've got a nice bush edge coming up to a couple of benches, and then a little tussock face where they typically feed out of in the afternoon or out from the scrub and feed down into that open. So we might prop here for a bit, give it a good glass. Curiosity got the better of us. We had to make a move. But you know you're in heaven, mate, aren't you, when you sneak over into a hanging basin like this?
Well, there's everything here for them. Got the good tussock feed, patches of scrub.
Yeah, there's good scrub line up there for him to come down above. The real cold stuff up top.
There'll be something up here. Temperature will be lower down up here. Maybe that big basin up in here.
Yeah. We've just found our first bit of sign. So I haven't got eyes on one yet, but encouraging is the fact that up there, right up the top, in the last of that melting snow, we've got some clear tracks. The snow is making vertical washouts, but we have got horizontal tracks of an animal tracking right across there, moving through a couple of those guts. So considering the snow's only 2 days old, we know we're finally on the right track.
Righto, boys, righto. Up here, up here. Look up here, Jonathan. Up, see the highest knob? Yes. Then you come to the right-hand side.
Clark's just got eyes on our first Tahr. He's done a great job. What are they, mate?
Right, there's 2 nannies and a kid, I think. Might be a young bull on the bottom. We'll have to look through the spotting scope and we'll be able to see the colour of his eyes with that thing.
Well, we've got 3 groups here at the moment. We've got the 3 over here. Looks like 2 nannies and a kid. We've got a young bull in that group of 7. And at least 2 more on this other side here, another nanny and a kid. All up about the same level, they're high. There doesn't seem to be any mature bulls yet, but they could be still bedded down. There's so many of these little cool pockets, little tarns, and that up on that side. Maybe closer to dark they'll come out.
Let's quickly take you through the spotting scope we're using here. This is the Swarovski STX95. The digiscope setup is the images that we're bringing you now of these Tahr on the opposite face. And so what was that range? 800, nearly 900 metres?
Yes.
So I've got the APO mount with the compact digital SLR, and we're up on 70 power, bringing crystal clear images at that distance. A fantastic bit of equipment.
Right on the top over here above that snow is a good bull, big mane on him. He's going on the top, right on the raised edge.
As the sun's dropped away, the witching hour's kicked in, and sure enough, the animals have come out of the scrub. We've been really rewarded on this face here. Clark picked up those couple of nannies and kids and young bulls that fed out of the scrub here opposite us, but we've now really been rewarded as 2 big bulls have stepped out over the ridge right up on top. We've got some great footage of them through the spotter, and they're both looking like shooters. And then it's picked up another one up behind us here on the snow where we glassed before. So it just goes to show patience in this country. There's so much country to cover. There's really no point in covering a heap of ground when you can sit with the light behind you and just let them do the work, let them come to you. So frustrating as it is, and as agonising as it is to have 2 good bulls up there, it's too late today. Given about an hour till last light, there's no way we could get up there and get back. We might get a shot, but we'd never get to the animal or get back. So with so much promising sign, we're just going to enjoy this and get a start for the morning. In 10 or 15 minutes out of camp in the morning, we've got to rip a climb and hopefully be into these bulls that might have come down a bit lower overnight. The sun's just about dropped away, the temperature's plummeted, but we've had a fantastic afternoon with half a dozen good bulls and a couple of dozen Tahr seen. We're now going to get back to camp and warm up and get a feed. Not complaining about the heat anymore. It's absolutely freezing now.
Tomorrow's going to be an awesome day.
We've just got enough light to get moving safely. A broken camp there behind us. And the plan for this morning is head straight back to that spot we glassed yesterday afternoon and try and pick up the bulls from yesterday. We've already actually just seen a couple skylined from camp, so it's a good sign they're there. We're hoping they're a bit lower as they fed down during the night. Arriving at the basin edge, we started glassing and found Tahr immediately, but the excitement soon faded as we realised they were simply out of reach. They are seriously, seriously high up, those ones. This sure ain't going to come to us. Everything that we saw yesterday in this lower belt and coming down in the evening has all gone high. And we've got a couple of nice bulls, but They're up in at the gates of heaven up there. We think we're going to contour right around this big spur opposite us. It's going to be a big day, but we've marked out a pretty safe route up. On the back side of this is a much colder face and a lot more scrub, and being unseasonably hot, these animals definitely don't like the heat. So we're hoping they might be hanging out a bit more over there. The backside of the spur leading up to the main ridge looked promising, as the tahr loved to favour the cooler facing slopes and bed in the shelter of their caves and crevices. Crossing the flat was quick and easy, and we spotted a couple of young animals in the distance that were left unawares. As we reached the base of the spur, from here on, every waypoint was up and the legs went into overdrive.
I'm puffing and slipping. Southern Alps of New Zealand. Welcome back, Rob. Whoa. Starting to lay down. It'll only be 7 or 8 o'clock max. We're burning up. You can't help get the feeling that these tahr are just going to go high as high chasing the cold weather in those caves. This is the last of the snow. It'll be well and truly gone by the end of the day today, you'd reckon. But it certainly beats freezing your tail off.
We carefully picked our way up and around the spur, glassing ahead as we went. With the change of aspect, the air noticeably cooled, and in the shaded depressions, the last of the snow slowly melted, making the tussock dangerously slippery. As the bluffs finally came into view, out of the shadows, Clark picked up on a bull.
He's a good one, Rob. He looks like he's got a bit of spread on him and a big mane, so he's right on the edge of that sheer drop off there. He's a good looking bull. He's worth a close look.
We were still a long way from the bull, so carefully and slowly moved higher, trying to stay out of view of their razor-sharp eyesight. As we climbed in elevation, navigating the boulders and tussock bluffs was becoming increasingly difficult, and the terrain, well, it was getting steeper by the minute.
This is ridiculous here. It's a one-stop shop. You fall here, there's one more stop, and that's down the bottom. Awesome.
We've come to probably the highest point realistically we need to go this morning. Would have been 2 or 3 hour climb.
Yeah, 3.
About that. It's been pretty good going. It's been a beautiful morning. And this bull's the only one that we've been able to sort of get up on, but he's gone back into a cave up there. So it's come to sort of decision time. We've got a couple of positives and a couple of negatives.
Yeah. I don't want to see a shooter bull that we can't retrieve, and that is severe.
We need him to fall safely down to be recoverable, which isn't really the best, most ethical scenario.
No, we don't want to shoot him if we can't recover him.
No, so Clark's got a good idea to give him the old whistle, see if we can get him out of his bed to get a look at him. And if he comes out on that front face, he'll fall our way, no problem.
Yeah, he'll probably wedge there, and we can get at him. We'll have to probably use our rope and our axe to get up there. You got those instep crampons.
We got set up and ready. Clark gave him a series of whistles, but despite waiting, the bull was too smart. He wouldn't show himself, and we never saw him again. Bulls grow old for a reason. We were beaten fair and square, so given the clear weather, decided to push on and climb higher.
This tahr country's full of boulder fields like this. On a day like today, you just absolutely rip across it. It was wet. Take us 2 hours to do what we've done in 15 minutes. No smashed knees, no smashed elbows, no smashed camera gear. It's a joy.
Unfortunately, I'd spoken too soon. Our smooth run came to an abrupt halt as we hit a large crevice and were bluffed out. Backtracking around some precarious boulders, we finally found a way up and continued our ascent to the distant ridge.
Just up above us here now is where those two big bulls were from last night. So it's taken us all day, but we've knocked out about 1,000 metres of the 1,200 metres it was to them. But it's put us in a great position to see all these other ridges and bluffs. And with this heat today, these tahr have absolutely ascended to the highest points to get out of the heat and get that cooler wind coming up. And we've just been able to get some spectacular footage with this spotting scope of them sitting up on the bluffs. And it just shows you what you're up against with these animals. They are afraid of nothing. What an incredible animal. You've got to really appreciate just the country that they can live in and thrive and survive. It's amazing.
After hours of climbing, we had finally reached the top of the boulder-strewn ridge, and the view alone was worth the effort. Glassing conditions were perfect, and through the Steiners, movement was spotted up ahead.
Just coming along this spine, and just put up a nanny and a kid. It's the closest we've been to them. We're actually above them, which is bizarre. They've settled now, but everything we've seen today, all the bulls, have been bedded up sort of above. Groups of nannies and kids are with them. So we've got a chance here to kick one out. Just don't know how we're going to play this.
The nanny kept looking back behind her, and in hunting, this is a dead giveaway that another animal is usually close by. We waited and hoped, and after staying patiently secluded in our glassing spot, with the tahr none the wiser, the prize finally stepped out. The bull looked magnificent in the late afternoon sun. He was a mature animal with his full winter coat. The adrenaline started to flow, and I precariously climbed up and onto a boulder to try to get a good steady shot.
163. He's looking straight at me. I'm going to take him. He's down. He's beauty. Good shot, mate. Look at the shakes. Well, I was with the ticker T3, the Burris Eliminator, 163 metres. Holiday Superformance, 165 grainers. He just collapsed. I poleaxed him.
Shortly after the shot, the bull had slipped out of view, and I feared he had gone off the ledge, down the bluff below, and was lost. Anxiously I searched, then finally caught sight of him.
My first trophy class bull tahr. Everything played out right there, and just goes to show patience and backing yourself. We sat on those nannies and kids for about an hour or so. They kept looking back into the shadows. And as we said, every group of nannies we'd seen had a bull with them. And after about an hour, lo and behold, John just said, hey, another one stepped out and looked down. Here he was, this big, beautiful bull. And look at the mane on this fella. The body size and the mane and everything, they're all part of the trophy. A great representative bull. Any animal you get out of this country is an absolute trophy. And luckily, he fell off the ledge, but he pulled up about 2 metres. About 5 metres more, he was gone. He was gone down a big ledge, and he wouldn't have been able to be retrieved. Interesting that they're all on the shadowy side. You know, we had to climb all the way up the ridge today, nearly 1,700 metres, to get out of the light, out of the sun, and here they were. So a great start to this trip.
It had been years in the making, but I'd finally taken a trophy bull tahr. The forecast was clear, and as the sun dropped on day 3, we still had a big week ahead of us, and the adventure was just getting started. Next Next week, join us as we're back in the Southern Alps of New Zealand as our wilderness tahr hunt continues.
This is our world. This is our wild country.